Hello, welcome to Radar Radio, and we are here with a good friend of ours, Mike Malyan of Monuments and Other Fame. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hello, how you all doing?
Good, thank you. Yeah,
Hello.
good.
And obviously, we've got Catherine and Ash again, and yeah, so we're back here. We got Mike down. We've known Mike for quite a long time. We thought it'd be quite fun for you to chat about how you got started in the industry, and obviously, just as like a short anecdote, I remember first going to Euroblast about 2012, and you were kind of the drummer that was everywhere. You did Monuments, you did the algorithm, you filled in for other people. So how did you get into all of that?
Well, MySpace was kind of the vehicle. MySpace and YouTube were quite new vehicles back then, and I was like, your typical progressive metal lover, loving this new wave that was coming out that was being led by, Ackle and Brown and Paul and Misha. This kind of 7string.org thing, it was super exciting for me, and I was trying to audition for bands and play with people. I even was the first drummer to play for the Heart Machine, and also the first to quit, which is a badge I am proud to wear. I ended up like just trying, and I even sent messages to Red Sea's Fire, but they never checked their YouTube inbox. And actually, Pete Graves only just saw the message I sent to him like back in 2008, 2009, and he was like, "Man, I really wish I checked my inbox back then." But yeah, I really loved Fell Silent and Tesseract, and I was following MySpace stuff really strongly, and they had that blog post thing, and I saw a blog post on the Monuments, which was just a side project of Brown's back then, and it had a new post entry a couple of days old saying looking for members to jam with, and I was like, yes, let's go. So I downloaded the track, I did a video of it, and not before long I was invited to come up because they told me that Fell Silent had split. Most of the members had left, and they needed a new band for Fell Silent, and the Monuments thing was just a ruse to get new members for Fell Silent, which I was like super stoked about. So technically, sort of came on as the new Fell Silent drummer for a couple of months before the new material was just sounding so different, and I think they just decided to change the name, and then so it was the birth of a new thing, and then Monuments led to so many opportunities because Fell Silent had such traction, and there was so much respect for it straight off the bat, and we had Basic Records helping us out. Nathan was so good to us, but John Spritch of Euroblast, he brought us out. He offered us to help, and he gave us our first ever international gig, which was Euroblast Volume 6, the first ever gent one, where and Paul Ortiz also played that with Chimp Spanner, but we played as his backing band, and he played as second fiddle in Monuments as well. And that festival at a place called Bogen 2, Bogensvai in Cologne, was just it was insane. Like, it was just the craziest party, and everything just sort of took off from there. John helped us so much back in those early days. Cologne was like a hub for us, so whenever we would then get European tours, we would sort of start and end in Cologne, and then head home. And so when you saw me at that Euroblast, I think probably that was, I did a clinic for Algorithm at like 12 p.m. and then at 2 p.m. I played with Algorithm at Live Music Hall, but I had to run across from Underground to Live Music Hall. Forgot a bunch of gear. Did that show. I think I played for someone else as well. The Chimp. I think maybe it was the Chimp Spanner set.
Chimp Spanner definitely
I'm
played
not
that
sure.
year as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I played for Chimp Spanner or maybe for someone else. And then I know I had one band's break while Sky Harbor played, and then I had the Monument set, and I just remember wolfing down my dinner and having a beer and just getting back to work. Pretty much, it was just the craziest. There was a photo for me in the underground car park, and my eyes, I just have bags under my eyes, and I was just so tired. It was just so many opportunities to play with so many people, and I couldn't say no to anyone, so I was just taking everything I could get, really.
It's actually pretty interesting. So in the timeline of the podcast we've done, so obviously we've had John on from Euroblast, and we got the
Yeah.
history of Euroblast, and then we chatted to Paul, and we've had a little bit of a snippet of the early Euroblast days for him and how important it was for him with Chimp Spanner and and the scene which you were alluding to. Yeah, so it's really sort of fantastic getting another part of it here. How did you find those early days, especially with the collaborating and sharing, and then lead into the early touring days of Monuments?
I think I found it like it was just so like amazing and overwhelming. I nearly quit college for it. Like I was so excited about being in a band, having a label, going on tour that I just didn't see any value in keeping going to school. And I was going to like the Brit school, which is like the best music. I soon after realized that I basically had one of the best opportunities in music education ever. So I'm really glad that my family and friends talked me into sticking with it. Even the guys in the band, even Brown and Nima, they were saying like, you don't have to quit this. But I was just going up there and staying at Nima's place and writing and practicing every day and just really living the music back then. It was all a bit of a blur, really, a little bit of a weed infused blur. I'll be honest. Or we used to just get way too high and just play music all the time, and it was wonderful at the time. It was really like an apprenticeship, like studying under masters and just getting to know how to play music to that degree. It really was a step up, and those formative. And then the tours that we did, there always seemed to be an opportunity to another show, another tour. We were never sitting on our hands from the moment it launched. There were opportunities. The uh, I think we basically did that Euroblast before, like after we'd only done one UK tour, and then I think we then started working with Avocado and doing shows with Winds of Plague and stuff like that um with Khan from Heart of a Coward as well. But I think I probably digress a little bit. I don't really know. It was just so exciting, but I was living and breathing and eating. I was just ready for everything that came up, and so as opportunities came up, I remember John actually he showed me algorithm stuff and I think he had the intention in the back of his mind like he wanted me to drum with him, but he just sort of showed it. He played it at a party at one of his famous Euroblast parties at his apartment and in Cologne, his old apartment, and I remember just being like, this is absolutely crazy. And I was obviously like, who is this? Can I, is there someone you know? And he was like, yeah, actually, I actually know this guy. And he was just he was matchmaking us essentially. And it
Classic
was
John.
great because, yeah, it was great, man. Working with Remy was some amazing years and forced me to learn some techniques that no one should ever have to learn.
Yeah, I do remember when you started drumming for them. The talk of Euroblast was no one can drum this, and then you came out just you and Remy and nailed it.
It was so much fun. It was so many hours of learning to play that stuff, but I was so thirsty for it. There was no, I didn't have anything else going on, and my parents were so supportive and I had a space at home that I could play and practice at. So there was no, and they were supporting me financially. So there was nothing stopping me from just completely devoting myself to a full study of everything that was coming up. And there was so much stuff around and so much excitement with all these musicians that it seemed like there was more than I could possibly do. And I think that's what led me to get a bit broken and injured in the first place, was just because I never had anything really stopping me or holding me back. And my thirst was a bit too much, and I just went at it for so long, so hard, without ever needing to slow down. So yeah, that hit me pretty hard back in 2014, 15. I think if that hadn't happened, if I hadn't injured like that, I don't know where else I would be right now, because I'm only just really, truly getting back on my feet now and getting ready to, continue where I left off. It feels like anyway. Even the stuff that done in Disperse, like I wonder if I'll ever have that like ethos and that drive truly as hard as I did when I was young. But it doesn't really matter if I don't. I'm happy with the way everything's happening now.
It's interesting actually because I was about to mention Disperse. Do you find that quite? Did you find that obviously the drumming is somewhat technical, but I guess it's not as hard hitting as Monuments, texturally. Did you find that like an easy way to come back? Because I remember seeing you at Tech Fest actually. I think might have been 2014 or 15. I remember you on the grass, like stretching out, and you're getting really worried about your back,
Mm.
whether or not you could perform. And yeah, that was probably the first time I had proper conversations with you actually, and that was quite sad to see. Obviously, you ended up smashing it anyway, but yeah, sorry, back to my original point. It was coming into Disperse after a bit of a break. Was that difficult?
I think actually Disperse was the best thing that could have happened to me in terms of actually being able to get back. In Monuments, to give a bit of context, in Monuments, there was never any reason why I felt like this except for just my own tendencies. But because it always felt a bit like mainly Brown's vehicle. At the time, it's become a much more communal musical environment now. But especially when I joined, it was very much like Brown calling the shots, and I for some reason allowed myself to lose any self confidence in myself as a writer or as a wider musician. I just kind of felt like, yeah, I can drum the stuff, but I can't really like add anything as a writer. But when I met Jakob properly at a Euroblast, and actually I met him and started hanging out with him more because my wife I when we fell in love I started going to Poland, and me being the the full on guy that I am in terms of trying to constantly make things happen, I thought, well, I'm in Poland and I've always wanted to jam with Jakobs, so I plan to go over to Jakobs as well. So I'd go to Poland, see her, and then go take a train 6 hours across Poland, hang out with Jakob for a couple of days, and come back. And that he was a friend that I really needed back then. And him bringing me into Disperse while I still couldn't play, allowing me to bring me into the band, and then with a drummer that can't actually play right now. I thought that was wonderful, and he helped me to recover. He actually there's a wonderful story I have, which I don't think I've told anyone, which is that he plays sometimes in the Polish mountains for these like really rich businessmen, but they all get crazy up in the woods, like they just drink tons, and it's a whole different world up there. Like they have these like fancy dress themed parties, and they play all night, and it's like the who's who of businessmen and famous people and stuff, all in like tree houses and stuff up in the mountains. And he got to know, and he was drinking, and he really got to know this guy who runs a sports hospital. And then he said, like, if you or anyone that you know ever needs any help, please call me. And Jakob called this guy for me, and then I ended up going and getting like this treatment, which was like they took my I got a proper ultrasound, and then they took my blood and they span it into a serum of white blood cells and re-injected it into my shoulder, to assist with the healing, like a natural alternative to a steroid shot, which is a
Yep.
grossly expensive thing, especially in the States. But this guy only charged me £40, and he even offered to pay for it himself, and it
Wow.
was all thanks to Jakob making this offer and driving me there. And so he really helped me to get my confidence back, and specifically in terms of the music, um, I was ready for something a bit lighter. I was a pianist before I was a drummer. I used to study classical music when I was a kid, from like the age of 6 until the age of about 12. Was like heavy classical music studying. Thanks to my parents' amazing support, they helped me to go to like strong musically oriented private school. They helped me. I then got a scholarship at the Trinity Juniors, the Trinity College of Music Juniors department, and at that point it got a bit much after a couple of years of that, and I was like 12, 13, and just ready to play some metal and just throw the classical
Be angry.
thing off. But there's always been a part of me that's wanted to do more meaningful and more meaningful stuff. So it was a magical time playing that material. I strongly miss it. I was doing a playthrough on my Twitch to one of the songs, and playing with Jakob is one of the most magical times I've ever had, and it's definitely like unlocked a a confidence within me to be a little bit more vulnerable and to play some more laid back and more emotional stuff. I I think I'll keep that with me for the rest of my life, thanks to doing that with him. So I'm really glad that I did that with him, and I think it's changed my life, my musical life forever.
I think it shows quite a testament to the community that we are all a part of as well, in that people are incredibly willing and supportive to do what they can to help each other, which is such a positive sort of consequence of our scene. You mentioned your injury as well. Would you be able to explain a little bit more about what happened and how obviously you've discussed how you sort of dealt with that injury in some senses, but how it started to occur and what your road back to recovery was?
Yeah, I'd happily do it. I love to talk about it because I want to help people avoid the same mistakes that I made. For one, my injury itself was a couple. I think that it was actually two injuries at once happening while I was loading a hardware case into a trailer. But on one hand, I have some genetic disposition to in my ball and socket joints that makes me easier to injure. At the same time, I do think that there's an element of me never doing quite a lot of things wrong in terms of looking after myself, which has made it worse essentially. And in general, I think while I don't want to beat my old self up about how I dealt with it, because ultimately I had this genetic disposition to injure my ball and socket joints. Not drinking enough, not drinking enough water, not eating well enough, drinking too much alcohol, partying a bit too much. You know, I was young, I was having a great time, but like, another big problem is that I think I had a hidden tendency to self harm, and I didn't realize it until very recently. In that if I was hurting while playing the drums, it was like me not doing well enough, and it was me continuously chastising myself, and it's probably a result of the epic grueling practice schedules I had when I was like 8 years old with a Japanese piano teacher, and it was 3 hours piano practice a day. You know, it was too much to put a kid through. I mean, I developed insane skills as a result of it, but like it left scars in me, and so whenever I wouldn't play well enough, I'd play harder. I'd beat myself up playing. But obviously I'm playing drums and everyone's congratulating me. So obviously it's like the harder I go, the more people go, wow. So that's somehow hidden, tied in. I would hurt myself more and more. The harder I push myself, the more it hurts. So obviously at some point it was gonna go. So the physical healing of initially a torn tendon in my shoulder, I had that fixed through heavy physio only after about a year, and that's when I went back to playing with Disperse. But I hadn't assessed a tear in my labrum in my left hip socket the entire time. I just thought I was just tired and just achy, but it turned out I had a more serious injury there, which showed itself up after touring with Disperse and also a bunch of amazing session opportunities that were coming up around 2017. Like playing for David Maximicic and Disperse together on one tour, or doing an amazing session, my first ever session playing with Nolly as a producer for a guy called Gavin Kennedy at Middle Farm, and it felt like really the next level and an amazing time. But because I had an underlying injury, it just after that tour with David Maximicic and Nick Johnston, I played for both of them, double dutying, supporting animals as leaders, and then went to TechFest and just fell apart, like couldn't walk. And then a couple of months after that, it happened again, and I just stopped, and then saw my physio, and they got me onto a great surgeon through the NHS, and I ended up getting surgery and only getting back to playing in, I think it was like March, April, May time 2019. So I've only been back on the kit for like a year now. And yeah, I think it impacted me a lot mentally, and I think in the last couple of years I've really been dealing with that mental side and trying to work out why that was happening, because I lost a lot of confidence in myself for so many days of just waking up and being in like insane pain, and like and developing a fear of wanting to get inspired, because I know that the inspiration is going to lead to pain. So then a lot of the times my ideas are great, but I can't follow through with them because I get too scared. And it still happens a bit now. I'd say I've got it down from like to like 20% of what it used to be. But yeah, again, I think it'll probably leave me a little overcautious, but I've done so much studying to get myself back on track. And whenever I teach or do clinics, I'm always trying to talk about talk to students or anyone else about, if you're going to push yourself musically, like make sure you're looking after yourself emotionally and physically while you do it. Like it's all good and well to push yourself, but if you've got any lack of self, if you've got any like, what's the word, like any self-loathing of any kind, or any lack of self-esteem, and you're trying to plug that with being seen to be playing really well, like the whole public side of being a performer at a high degree, you could quite easily cause yourselves the same problems that I've had. And I would really love, if I can just stop one person from doing that, then I'll be so happy to have helped someone to realize they might have that kind of an emotional thing going on before it happens. Yeah, I know these are very long-winded answers, but they're very deep questions. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think so. Obviously, I'm a musician myself, and yeah, I agree with you in terms of um, where different types of writing, where that comes from internally, and obviously the things that you put yourself through trying to achieve greatness, and obviously, unsure on how true compliments are, and you're your own worst critic. And yeah, I can definitely see how that can affect your mental health, as obviously, as well as your physical health, because they're intertwined. But I mean, while you were in recovery, how did you find other ways to get ideas and work on those inspirations? Obviously, I remember things like the things you did with the MIDI keyboard when you're doing lots of drums on that, when you're doing the live sessions. What did those help at all? Did that did they inspire you further?
Yeah, well, that was I mean, I think that the MIDI drums, the keyboard drums, was the most important thing for me to develop, because I was desperate for an outlet. And it wasn't just the MIDI drums, but it was piano playing in general. Um, and in the first recovery phase, 2015, 16, that was a bit of keyboard drumming, but because I was doing some stuff with Disperse, we even like thought about keyboard drums live so that we could go play shows together quickly. But yeah, I just had to get these ideas out of my head, and I wasn't really thinking about trying to be a professional keyboard player at all. I did start to think about that in the second recovery, 2017 to 19. I still needed to play. I still had music to make, and I really needed that. If it hadn't been for that, I had to do it. Like there wasn't even an alternative in my mind. I just had to keep playing, and because it's like my emotional language. If I don't express that, then my emotions bottle up within me, and like that's not good. So I need to keep that voice open, no matter which instrument. One thing that really truly helped was Harrison White from Novena passed on his job at Morley College as a music teacher to me, and so from 2017 to actually January of this year, I was a teacher at Morley College, doing things like BTEC, doing certain courses of the BTEC course for level 4 and 5. I was in music performance, trying to give some. They really were happy to have a real life gigging musician to teach there,
How did you
because
find teaching in a more formal situation?
so scary. I mean, I'd always love to teach on the road. Like, I'd always try and get students in at before shows, because I'd love to meet people, and it was also a very useful way to try and actually, like try and turn over a little bit of extra income, because touring back then, it was all loss. There was nothing in it for us financially. Personally, it would pay for itself, and that was about it. But yeah, becoming a teacher was insanely scary, because I was just a fish out of water. I had so little confidence. And Morley itself is actually a great college for the fact that it gives opportunities to those who are less able, so that you have a lot of students with learning difficulties or disabilities, or adults getting assistance to. It's all adult education, and there were a lot of single parents who were getting assistance from the state to to study, and then they would be there and then trying to balance learning and childcare at the same time. And it was a very challenging place to be. I had a student with a severe sight impairment at one point, and I it was a massive learning curve. I got a lot of training, and I learned so much. I was at every conference that came up there, and I was so grateful to have, like, my first ever real job. And they even covered sick pay while I was having my was 6 or 7 weeks off with my surgery. It took me a long time to be able to get back into work and get off crutches and everything. So they did so much for me. I'm kind of I quit basically in order to do the touring that we had. And I haven't even really quit. I'm still on site. I'm not an active teacher there, but I'm still part of their group. Just
Okay.
but yeah, I was essentially just planning to do that Monuments tour that we just finished in UK Europe, and then and I'm meant to be out in the States now. So it's a little weird for me now because of you know stopped that in order to do the other, and now everything's sort of stopped, and I'm not sure if I want to go back yet because it was so hard. I think I've learned so much doing it, but I think I want to teach people who are more like me, who really want to study a specific thing and aren't just musicians in general looking to get a bit better, but people who really like to study that fun stuff, like the really dedicated students. I yearn for that, honestly.
And just, I guess, out of interest, since you've rejoined Monuments, and you're obviously, I guess, still physically, making sure that you don't have a repeat injury. What have you taken from the injury and from previous touring experiences, and how you're applying that to the most recent tour and going forward?
I think one of the big things is that I'm just more careful about what kind of scenario I'm going to allow myself to get into. So, like, if I would say no to any double duty slots that came up for the foreseeable future until I was sure that I was really strong enough to do it, and I'd be cautious even then. Scheduling days off, making sure that I can sleep horizontally, because one of the big problems is playing and then sleeping sat up, or it encourages all of your tendons to just sort of stay shrunk and not lengthen back out, and then once they lose that lengthening, that's a big cause of injury there. So I'm pretty particular about, like, I can't do a van tour. Like, I can't do it again, especially unless it was like a week with a day off every here or there, and, like, okay, it's a bit of fun. But like what America was in 2014 for Monuments, which was like 6.5 weeks of playing a show every day and then being in the van for 3 to 9 hours between every show and just sleeping on the floor of a cold van. Um, no wonder it broke me. So I would never do any of that again. I also just stay a bit more hydrated. I drink a lot less alcohol. I quit smoking weed a few years ago, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me because that was a nasty addiction that just made my pain worse. I'd tell people I was smoking it to feel better, but that was my addiction talking. It actually hurt me more to smoke. I was having a horrible inflammatory reaction from it. So yeah, and I'm an advocate to help people to, like, see their way through that as well, like, and talk about it as it is, um, rather than because in our scene and in all music scenes and in a lot of scenes just generally around the world, people are very tolerant to not pointing out to marijuana addicts that they may well be addicted, and because it's just got kind of a social norm attached to it, they don't you can't really call a spade with some people, and I'm trying to just smash through that taboo and tell people who may worry about their own habits, like, it's okay to talk about that might be a thing, and there are people out there that will support you, and I like to talk out about that again just to help people, because that it can really help you and your health and your mental health and other things, and yeah, it shouldn't get a pass from that entire conversation about addiction that can be had more easily with alcohol or harder drugs. It's just it's just something else that I push for. I also have a bunch of new equipment that I'm like 100% about. Like I have a drum stool which I need to have wherever I go. If I fly out, I need someone to get me that particular stool. I need my hardware needs to be set up in a certain way. So I might not kit share in the same way. I might be, and everyone. I mean, even everyone we just talked with, Heart of a Coward, and sorry, my
I
brain
Built the
just went.
Sky.
Yeah, and I, of course, yeah, with Heart of a Coward and I Built the Sky. They were Andrew and Colin and Noddy. They were all amazing about just making sure that I could do the show, being willing to sort of try different things out in order to help me out. And as you said earlier, Catherine, people are so supportive, especially in this scene, that yeah, it really helps to be able to deal with these kind of things when you've got such lovely people around who are willing to help.
So talking about, roll through to 2019-20 and everything's in a better place. Talking about bands that are in a better place, Monuments. You're back in the band. How did that come about? And obviously, you want to talk about the tour and any future plans you're allowed to talk about.
Sure. Pardon me. Reflux is always a thing. Yeah. So I got a call from Swanee. I think it must have been like August, September time, 2019, and he just. But a little bit of context. I played a song with Monuments at TechFest 2019 in July. I just wanted to play a song with them because I could play, and I just really needed to get up on stage, and the guys were fine with me coming up and playing the song Regenerate, and that was such a wonderful moment. And I think what happened for Lango, who was the drummer in Monuments, is that he wasn't 100% sure he wanted to keep doing it to be able to follow his other musical passions and jobs and the scratch and and everything else. But he felt like there wasn't really another drummer out there who could actually do it, and do it justice to the way that the guy specifically wanted a drummer to do it. But when I came up and played that song with him, I think something then twigged for Lango, and I think he was like, okay, I think I could walk from this, and they'd be okay. So I think that almost gave him permission to put his own stuff first, which that's just kind of the way I see it. Potentially, I might be completely wrong, but Lango was so lovely to me about passing it all over. And originally, Swanee was just asking me to maybe do a certain amount of gigs, maybe not even everything, but I was just so ready to be back involved in it, and I could see that the band had had a massive positive transformation in the years that they'd had off, and the restructuring that was happening within it. It was a much better place to be. So I was very excited to be part of that. And then within a few weeks of agreeing to do that, I found out that they had this song, which is now released, called Animus, the new single, and they were about to put that out. And I was like, is there any chance I could go to a studio and put my own drums on this? And then it's me and then it's Andy's announcement back into the band and my re-announcement as well. You can put a lot more weight behind both of those things happening, and they agreed on it. So I flew out to one of my favorite studios, which was Babylon Studios, modern day Babylon's studio down in the Czech Republic, and
Amazing.
did the drums for that, and it was great. And then we were rehearsing soon after for the tour, and then went out to India, which was insane. My first show back in Monuments in India. My first metal show back after after injury. So that was wild. And then the European tour with Heart of a Coward, which was so great. With I Built the Sky also being amazing. Well, we were doing that all as coronavirus was like a thing, but it wasn't an urgent thing. It didn't become an urgent thing until about mid-March, 2 weeks after we got home from that London show. So we were insanely lucky to have not gotten Corona cancelled in the middle of everything. We did have some problems with our US tour. It's now the second or third time that tour's been postponed. So there's a lot of American fans out there who are dying to see the band. But yeah, we had some issues in getting that all because we're meant to be out now. So we don't really have any solid plans at the moment. We're just sort of doing what there just seems to be this really nice vibe of sharing riffs that we're writing and just sort of putting songs together. Probably we're going to put some kind of album together at some point. But it's great to just see that everyone's writing and so we don't really have any solid plans at the moment. We're just sort of doing what there just seems to be this really nice vibe of sharing riffs that we're writing and just sort of putting songs together. Probably we're going to put some kind of album together at some point. But it's great to just see that everyone's writing, and I've been writing some stuff as well using keyboard guitar stuff, program guitars and program drums. So like with this tiny little keyboard, I've actually written a couple of tracks which the guys are super keen on because it's a new sound. It's a new sound for me and it's a new sound for the band. So it looks like I've got a place as a writer on the next record as well, which is awesome. It's just it's a lot of fun.
It's really nice to hear how back to strength you are, and as someone that's followed your career for a very long time, it's nice to see you back where you definitely seem to feel like you belong.
It really is. The support I've had from everyone, yourself especially, you know, and just everyone in general, the things people have done for me, and the support I've received has been, you know, I've been quite emotional about it quite a lot because it's just like, you know, I've made such incredible friends and had such amazing colleagues to work with, and yeah, the question is now what to do with that strength. I feel a little bit out in limbo, but I intend to create a lot of YouTube content, make a bunch of music, keep streaming silly drum ideas. I've got a few like these silly meme song ideas like Metal Bruce Almighty, like turning silly things into metal, progressive like Spastic Ink kind of metal and stuff like that. And I think I'm just gonna try to focus on having fun with music like I used to back 10 years ago or so. I think for now that's just there's nothing else to do. There are no shows for the time being, so it's kind of in a way it's kind of a perfect time. But yeah, just gonna see how that all goes really, and you know, and also see if I can help other musicians to develop their music if they want session stuff that I can record from home that they're okay with doing. Then you know I'm totally up for helping people out with making their music as well. Obviously I'll be aware of how much I'm doing all the time and never allowing myself to do too much, but I am, you know, I do love doing sessions and helping people bring their music to life. So yeah.
You just preempted a question there about how are you spending your time in lockdown, which we were gonna come to.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's kind of a natural segue, isn't it? Because it's like 5 years of dealing with an injury to get back to doing it, and and finally, like, it's almost a sick joke, you know. Finally took that brave decision to leave that work, and here I am, and the reason I left it has gone, but it kind of hasn't as well, because like that was just what it took to get me out of one thing and into another, and now I have a bit of a blank template. It was a bit scary for a few weeks there, but I think I'm now excited about it. I'm also not gonna push myself to, you know, I don't like, I really actually hate the social pressure of, you know, if you can't get anything done now, then you never lacked time, you just lacked like dedication. I've been seeing those kind of quotes flying around the place, and I just find them so unbelievably insulting, because like this is such a horrible time for so many people. It's like a traumatic experience for everyone in a lot of ways. Everyone's been ripped out of their norm, and as a society we're so used to being slammed with the idea of like build, create, you know. It's like, hang on a minute, it is okay to take some time out here and just do you. Like, it truly is. And again, I'll advocate publicly for just, you know, looking after yourself, looking after your family, and just maybe not necessarily making much out of the time at all. Like, it's totally fine. And I think now that I think I've got a healthier home life than I've had in, I don't know, 7 years, which is crazy. So
you and I
think,
were chatting the other day online about you know, what we're doing with our time, feeling guilty of not using your time. Is it all right not to feel guilty, you know? And I think we both came to sort of the right conclusion that, you know, it's if you're fortunate enough that it hasn't affected you too negatively, it's a good time to use the time for something positive. But if you don't, not the end of the world. It's sunny outside, you know, we've got family. We're all lucky to actually be able to spend a bit of time, well, with the person that you're self-isolating with.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I'm so lucky. I bet so many people do not have their partners at home with them, People have got that there are people losing loved ones like a lot. I've been seeing it. Like a lot of people I know have, multiple people I know have lost someone to this already, and it's yeah, that's a lot. Like that's a lot to swallow. And my wife's got family back in Poland. She can't go and see them. She doesn't even know if she's going to be able to see them when she'll next get to see them. Her mum is a frontline worker at Audi. You know, she's working 6 to 8 hours a day with a face mask on, and like is she gonna bring it back? Is she gonna get it? Is she gonna bring it home? It's a lot tougher out in Poland. There are huge fines. They're like 30,000 zloty fines for breaking a lockdown. If you're told you must quarantine, like you can get a year in jail for it and stuff. Like it's
Wow.
it's really scary, man. Like it's really really scary. So the fact that I could get anything done is good. But Joe, you said something great to me then, which was about scheduling, and I started by making a laundry schedule. And that helped a lot. We're washing our linen once a week on a Sunday, and we're washing our towels once a week on a Monday, and we're gonna do our black laundry on a Tuesday, whatever. And then from then, I think I'm gonna start with a streaming schedule on Twitch for like Tuesdays and Fridays for musical stuff, and it just kind of feels good. It's like there's a regiment, there's like something to look forward to, there's something to plan towards, and that I think that will leave me feeling a lot less in limbo. So that was some fantastic
Are
advice.
you going to stream the laundry as well?
No.
Stick the webcam in front of the washing machine halfway through the cycle.
Screw it. It's a GoPro. I'll stick it in the washing machine, and then I'll just let it play while I take a grossly long poo.
The dryer is full of liquid again. I've got to empty it. I didn't do the full cycle. I've got to restart it. Everyone's like Twitch messaging you. You've got to go and replace the water.
Yeah. It could be entertaining. No, I don't think it. No, it's not gonna happen. But yeah, like that again could change. There could be weeks where I just don't feel like it, and I guess I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I can go.
I don't know. Some crazy things go viral. Do you remember in the flooding there was that giant puddle that was getting live streamed outside someone's offices, and anytime someone came up to the puddle, they just couldn't get through it, and it was a big internet thing for a couple of days.
Well, I mean, I've started to see these life hack videos have started to come up with like little coronavirus like life hacks, which are downright dangerous, like homemade masks that just won't work, and but I have seen some amazing compilations of like what people have done to make a mask out of nothing to go shopping with. I saw one guy in America. He literally had a hoodie and the lid, the see-through lid from a cooking pot, and he just put the cooking pot inside the hoodie and then tightened it so that the pot was surrounding his face, and a shop that was like only mask wearers allowed him in, and he's just walking around with this saucepan lid on his face. Like insane. Like the ingenuity of some people, and the support in our local community has been amazing. We've been sheltering completely. We've been shielding because we've got people in the house that are immunocompromised. I have asthma, mild asthma, but it's still a bit of a problem. And yeah, the community has been so lovely to us. We've had people doing our shopping. The government actually delivered us. They called my dad yesterday. I signed him up onto the vulnerable list because it looked like he'd been missed off. And they called him yesterday, asked him if he needed anything. He told him our situation, even though it was all right, but it's still hard to ask neighbors to shop for you and stuff. And the government came through with a food package this morning, 8 a.m. We got a big box of like food, milk and shower gel and toilet paper, and it was just like it blew me away a little bit. I had to sit down for a minute because when you see something like that actually come through, you're a bit like, they did something.
We
so
had one of those actually this morning as well. I was really shocked. My father's vulnerable as well, and I couldn't believe. I remember I saw the letter last week on the kitchen table and thought, there's no way this is going to happen.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know when the phone call came in, but just had the massive box of everything. I was really surprised.
Yeah, it's. I think my dad got so used to doing things for himself for so long that, and like, you know, I guess he kind of started to feel like he was just so used to feeling like he was getting ripped off all the time. Maybe he wasn't all the time, but you know, there's that feeling that like, yeah, they say they'll help, but you know, they never do. And then this morning comes, and there's tangible, edible support right there. You know, it's and it means a lot. You know, it's done a lot for his well-being and for all of us, because it's like we're not alone in it. You know, or even though we have amazing people there to help us, but yeah, it's I'm pretty impressed at that.
Is your mother still able to make cakes? Because as somebody who has eaten your mother's cakes, I can highly recommend them, and it concerns me that she's not able to make cakes easily.
Well, she has been baking the part baked rolls that we used to love having every morning. She's
Yep.
been making them and working out the best way. Either they'll be fully baked and we'll just heat them up, or they'll be like part baked and we can sort of cook them in mornings. She's been amazing for that. But she's been making this thing called tea bread, which I didn't even know was a thing. But it's essentially like a cakey loaf that's made with strongly brewed tea and raisins that have soaked up that black tea, and then
Okay.
she's baking that with like a banana instead of eggs, and then so it's basically like, and it kind of has the consistency of malt loaf, and it's so good. Like it's always there. I've been eating so much of it. Like it's yeah. She's gone to town. I've been cooking like so much because I just it's been my way to process, and I've been like learning how to make better soups in pressure cookers and stuff like that. In my Discord, which I've been running alongside my Twitch, I made like a Foodies Unite um channel in my Twitch, and I've been sharing. Like I made a massive paella for my mum's birthday, even though we couldn't have everyone over because of lockdown. I still made like a 12-person paella and delivered some to my brother, who's also isolating. I just left it. I like sanitized the dish and then just left it on its porch and rang the doorbell and like, you know, basically knocked down gingered him with food, and it was amazing.
I'm sure David appreciated that.
Yeah, but it's been good, like to be able to make a lot of good food, and the food delivery services that have popped up around here, all the commercial suppliers, they've been amazing at like actually going to providing people with stuff at home. And we even had one guy just heard of our situation, and he just was like, you know what, like, do you want me to go to the corner shop on my way bringing this food? Like, I don't mind doing it. And it was just like the people's kindness has really blown me away. I think we're really fortunate in the area we live in, and the people we have around us. But, yeah.
One thing that you've mentioned a couple of times is your Twitch account. Would you be able to explain exactly what it is that you're doing with that and where people can find it?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm twitch.tv/MalyanDrum. That's my that's my Twitch account, which I started a couple of weeks ago, and I started off just playing zombies on that, which is Call of Duty Black Ops 3. And usually I play like custom zombies. I usually play with a friend of mine called Luigi Masella, who is an absolute Discord whiz, and he sets up Discord servers and runs and moderates a lot as well, and he's a great buddy to play these games with, so he's usually on the stream with me when we're playing. But I've also started doing keyboard drum streaming, where I play along to like song requests and my own choices of songs and memes and all sorts of weird stuff on a keyboard drum kit that I use, using Get Good Drums and this little keyboard that I have on my desk. I have a video that you can check out if you want to see more about that, where I talk about my injury and about exactly the layout and how I can do, like, how I set all the keys up and everything for like a decent sounding drum kit on a keyboard. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out at my YouTube. I think I have a new idea for the Twitch, a few new ideas. I want to make some hilarious music live on stream. And I just got a new graphics card which will help me to make better video encoding while I'm actually doing stuff in my DAW. So I'm going to test that out tonight. I can't wait. It literally just came today. I installed the drivers like 10 minutes before we started this chat.
What did you go for?
It's a GTX 1080 Ti.
Ooh, nice.
And
still a top range card.
yeah, how successful the Twitch and everything else is. If that needs me to upgrade and I can justify it with what that does, then I think I'll probably upgrade that as well. But for now, I can't wait to see how graphics card encoding of streaming and recording the video as I make the music. That's a new test that I need to do. But I've got some fun ideas. Oh, dude. Oh yeah, but it's one of the worst optimized games in existence. Like it runs through resources so much harder. Like Black Ops 4 looks 3 times as good at like way higher settings on my
Never mind.
computer.
I
But
was going
Black
to say,
Ops
never
3,
mind
it's
that. Black
just
Ops 3 is
it
going to
must
look
make
amazing.
such
That game
poor
that
use
still holds
of
up.
resources because it's just completely annihilates my computer. But yeah, no, it's cool. Like it's a near top end graphics card for a 5-year-old game that will still eat my computer alive. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm probably gonna, even though I've got other things I need to do today, I'm gonna load it up and just see what it looks like on full graphic settings. Just cause.
I think that's a vital test that you need to do
Yeah,
today.
yeah. I think I'm gonna be streaming it tonight. I was gonna do a test stream potentially with Louis. We've been trying to do an Easter egg on one of the maps, and also I've been taking polls of like people can choose which map I'm playing on, and kind of get involved. It's so much fun, man, and I love watching streams too because you're part of the moment. It's not like something that has been premeditated, and or edited or had all the fat trimmed off it. It's like it's everything there, warts and all. If you say something silly, people get to see it. Like all the muck ups and all the real stuff. I really like that. I think it's a lot more engaging. So big Twitch fan now.
So as well as doing Twitch and flexing creative muscles, what we've been asking people is while you've had a bit of time on your hand, what you've been listening to the most. Have you discovered anyone pretty good? I mean, it doesn't have to be metal or prog. What are you vibing at the moment?
I don't think I really have been listening to much. I've apart from just like listening to demos from friends and stuff like that, I haven't really discovered anything like truly new. I think in quite a long time. I think I'm not a very good leisure listener anymore. I just don't think I really like take the time to really sit and listen to new stuff. I'm a massive creature of habit, and I tend to just leave lo-fi music on while I do other stuff. So music wise, I can't really comment on anything new. I think I think I probably have discovered a lot more great stuff on like Netflix, and I'm a bit more of like a watcher. I was really enjoying Star Trek Picard as it was coming out. That was really great, and Better Call Saul. I think it's the end of the series, at the end of the season tomorrow, Tuesday the 21st. I think that's the last episode of season 5. I think we're on, and that's so great because I love Breaking Bad and stuff like that.
I've been
So
rewatching
I'd say
the
films.
Mandalorian.
Films are a bit more.
Seen the Mandalorian?
No, I haven't. I'm not really a Star Wars guy.
Oh, Mike, you're breaking my heart.
It's not that I'm like not a fan of it, but it's that I only ever saw parodies of episode 4, and I've only tried to watch episode 4 once, and it was just like watching the unfunny Family Guy episode, because I've had all the lore thrown at me and all the jokes and all the quotes. I kind of haven't been able to get onto that train, so I was just sort of I should probably try just watching episode 5 to see what happens, and then
You've got a bit of
go
time
from there. Yeah, I truly have.
I've been watching The Mandalorian and pretending to my partner that I hadn't seen it because I watched them all pirated, and she wanted to watch it, so I've held that one, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's surprising, but I never saw that coming.
Right, but now she knows because she's listening to this, right?
Well, I'm going to be honest, she's probably not listening. If she is, Jodie, I'm really sorry. No one Facebook message her.
Fair enough. Well, you were eager, and it's a really nice gesture that you're not like ruining it for her and playing along with it, because the excitement of watching a new thing together is
It's the only time I've done it. I've always been really good and not watched stuff, but it was being ruined for me on sites I read, like IGN, and people putting up memes about Baby Yoda. Sorry, anyone that hasn't seen it. And
Oh man, everyone's seen Baby
Yeah.
Yoda. I don't. All
Yeah.
I know is that it's a show that involves a baby version of Yoda. And
I
like,
had to make
and
decisive
again,
action.
that's why I don't want to watch it, because it's like all I've seen is Baby Yoda memes, and I'm like, now I'm the guy who's going back, and if I do watch it with anyone who's seen it, all they're gonna do is go, hey Mike, wait, watch this bit. This bit's really cool. They're gonna do the thing. Yeah, they did the thing. Yay! Aren't we cool for ruining it for you?
I mean,
This next bit's coming. I'm just like, nah, mate.
What I really love
stick
about
with
it
Star
is
Trek.
it's like a spaghetti western, but in Star Wars. So it feels like the old Sergio Leone, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for a few dollars more.
Wow.
Kind of. That's the
So
tone
it's got a
of
bit
it.
of a Firefly vibe to it then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it feels like a high budget Firefly.
Yo, okay. Now I've heard that, I'm interested, because Firefly and Serenity is so sick.
Yeah, the Yoda thing's just a small part.
Yes, that's one thing that I was criminally behind everyone else, and that I'd never seen Firefly and Serenity. So Sam made me watch them in the lockdown recently, and I can now have conversations with people about them and not feel left out anymore.
That's so cool. Have any of you guys into Battlestar Galactica, the newer version, not the old ass one?
I loved the old one.
I didn't see the old one. I saw the 2000s remake, which was just insane. There's a scene. There's a scene on New Caprica at the beginning, and you can see the ship from Firefly in it, and it was like, what? So like they've done like a little crossover of that. That's the only thing that's in there, but it's like you just see that. What's the name of that ship from Firefly again? Is it called Serenity? Or
Yes.
yeah, so you see the Serenity fly overhead in like one of the, I think it's the first episode of the mini series of the newer Battlestar Galactica, and I was just like, hang on a minute, I had to rewind it because I was like, I mean, there are so many ships flying overhead in that scene, and then you just see that, and you're like, wait a minute, what?
So meta.
Yeah, so cool, so cool. I really recommend that. I got very emotional watching Battlestar Galactica. I really want to rewatch it. I'm a huge rewatcher. I've like done the whole of the Next Generation like twice from start to finish, and like most of Star Trek, including Deep Space Nine. I don't know, find it really inspirational and a really good way to switch off. I should probably listen to more music, but I'm so used to learning it as part of my active, almost working day that I kind of don't have so much of a thirst for it passively, because it's like I know that something's going to come up, and I'm going to be learning something insane, and that's going to like soak up all of that energy, and I'm sort of saving it for that rather than other stuff. But in general, some of the stuff I've loved listening to answer your previous question a little bit was what's his face, like that Prolifia album that came out not too long ago, really stuck with me. Like I've really loved re-listening to that a lot. As well as the new Tesseract record, and well, newish. It's been out for a while now, but that gets a lot of replays. One song that did come up that I absolutely loved was that collaboration between Rabia and Maxi, Far Gone, I think it's called, and that hits some heartstrings. Everything Maxi does hits heartstrings for me. Like his music's so good.
Yeah, I think one positive about what we do with Radar is we have to listen to a lot of music, and being people that listen to a lot of music anyway, it sort of pushes us to listen to a lot more. Because I think we likened it in an interview when booking the festival to sort of trying to do a mixtape. You sort of want things to flow into each other. That what you want to try and put a lot of thought into how you're laying the bands together.
Fully, yeah. No, that's a really important thing, especially in the what band plays after what other band. There's a lot more to think about than just the perceived size or the fan base of that band. It's way more about how are you gonna help control someone's energy from start to finish in a very similar way to writing music in its own way. It's a slightly longer experience, but you're cultivating that experience. So super important. I got a lot of respect for developing a lineup and an order, especially when people might then pull out last minute and you've got to try and plug a gap with someone who does something completely differently, and you can't just change the set time. It's
we've actually been very fortunate in that we only lost one band last year, which was
Wow.
Intervals, and it was beyond our and their control, and a lot of people asking who we were gonna replace them with, and sort of we tried. Actually, we tried everyone, everyone we could think of, but it was too close to the festival. So there wasn't too much we could do about it in the end, which was a shame because they were one of the bands that I was most looking forward to.
There's one band that I really have loved listening to, and I have to mention it because it's Nima, from the old vocalist from Monuments, one of the original vocalists, and the vocalist of Fell Silent. He's got this band called Flux Conduct, and they are so sick. Like, anyone who hasn't heard that EP needs to listen to that. There's a particular track on it called Know Your Enemy, and it's so groovy. It just has so much like groovy attitude that reminds me of like an extension of Nima's personality. And John Kaywood, who's written this stuff, his riffs are just so sick. And I've been talking to John and Nima about maybe being involved in the live element of Flux Conduct, like, because I really miss playing with Nima, and I think we've all talked a bit about, like, you know, if, you know, I maybe playing. And we've been looking at Techfest. We've been talking about it a while back, but we're not sure what's going to happen with that, of course. So, but yeah, I'm still very interested in at least playing a little bit alongside that project, just because the grooves are very infectious and very exciting. And I haven't, like, aside from Monuments, I haven't felt that level of excitement when listening to something in a long time. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've got the bug back.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, look, Mike, thanks for joining us. We're about at the hour, so best to wrap things up. We hope you stay safe and keep the creative juice flowing.
Thank you so much, man, and I wish you all the best as well in such a crazy time with all your ventures as well as Radar. I really, whenever, you know, like, regardless of whatever happens, I have to come to the next iteration. I didn't manage to come to the first one because I was getting married at the time, so, you know, I had a pretty good excuse. But
it was alright. Yeah,
I really wish that I'd been there, and I can't wait to see it when it next happens. I really can't wait. So regardless of whatever happens with the current situation, I wish you all really the best with that and all of your ventures. And I appreciate you having me on the show as well. It's been really nice to talk to you in this way as well, in general.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for the thank you for the insight, and
You're super welcome.
thanks for your time.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.